Hey guys, it's Yishan here. It is Christmas Day, well, the end of Christmas Day, and I wanted to do a video sort of talking about the end of the year, like an end of the year wrap up style video. Like, what the heck happened to Yu-Gi-Oh in 2021? I think time can fly by so fast, and we sometimes get caught in the present. So it's like really, really cool to reflect on what actually happened. It's amazing how much the game has changed in just 1 year when you just look at the past. And so a lot of fun trying to put this video together, doing a little bit of research, trying to remind myself what happened, how I felt about certain times. Yeah, this is going to be really fun. Just a quick shout out to Dragon Rider Games. We're doing a big cash tournament. So you can check out the link to that in the description. Really, really good testing for YCS Pasadena. But let's take a look. What the heck happened to Yu-Gi-Oh in 2021? Well, we start off, of course, in January, where Legendary Duelist 2, I guess Season 2 was released. Now, I mean, this was like an okay set. It had a lot of reprints. Blue Eyes Galaxy stuff. There was like, I think, Dice released with this. But I think what we really want to take a look at this time was that this was basically the beginning of remote duels. And I think it was introduced with, remember that content creator? They did that remote duel whole thing on the Konami stream in late 2020. But now this is a time for like your everyday duelist to be playing the remote duels, and so that was really interesting. And the meta at the time, I looked up, we got like Virtual World, Drytron, Bird Up, Zulich, Invoke Dogmatic Ashul, Dragon Link Dino. So it was a pretty diverse time in January. This was the beginning of remote duels, basically, and the start to a new year, but not too much set release, right? So I think, people were just starting to play remote duels. And then we get to February, right? So February, Blazing Vortex, I guess our first main core set of the year was released. OTS 15, Structured Decks Freezing Chains. These are all sort of, the other two aren't really big, but from Blazing Vortex, we got Pot of Prosperity. And honestly, that's basically it, except for Tri Brigade Kit. And so the remote duels now were basically in full swing. I remember this, and everything was remote, but the meta hadn't shifted for a while, especially since the release of Virtual World. And like Virtual World was just the best deck, because I remember at this time that people were getting extremely, extremely tired of VFD, the True King of All Calamities. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember this card was like just so obnoxious, and I remember that everybody at this time just wanted it gone. Like, nobody wanted to see this card ever again. So yeah, that's how that, no one wanted to see this card. It gets, surprisingly banned. I didn't put the picture here because I just had the picture on the last slide, but March was our first ban list of the year, and I think it was actually a really, really good one. It banned Union Carrier, which I think maybe is not a popular ban, especially if you're like an ABC player, but I think Zexal ban makes a lot of sense. The Ben 10 limit makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking, when I was looking at this ban list, I remember the time that I thought maybe Scarlet Sanguine, the Eldritch card, deserved a hit. Honestly, that was definitely wrong. That card did not deserve a hit, especially if you look like, what happened in the game now. But what happened, right? What happened? Dragon Link became tier 1. Remember that Dragon Link back in January still had the Buster Lock going on, right? So in the Buster Lock, I mean, it was just crazy, right? But honestly, the Buster Lock wasn't that important to the success of the deck, right? And so even without Buster Lock, I think Dragon Link was just by far and away the best deck at this time. And I don't think it was actually close, because Union Carrier was not really, it was more of a hit to Drytron, if anything. In fact, Drytron really got hurt on this list because Union Carrier was basically their way to get more Drytron names into the grave. So that is that. So that sort of, it was a big ban. I think it was a good one. I think a lot of people liked the game at that point, except for Drytron players. But April just sort of Ghost from the Past got released. I think it was extremely, extremely hyped. But what I remember from this is that honestly, it was overpriced, and I actually think that they're going to fix that. They're actually adding more cards or making it cheaper the next time. Well, this is the same thing, I guess. Adding more cards or keeping the same price or making it cheaper. I don't exactly know, but I know the next Ghost from the Past set is going to be a little bit better in that regard. But what I do remember from this is people were so excited for Ghost Rares. Like, so excited. And I think, Konami needs to do some more Ghost Rares, because people really love it. And it's honestly one of the cool, like, no other game has a rarity like Ghost Rare. Like, it's a sick rarity. But not much change to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. They did add some Dragoonides in Ghost from the Past, but honestly, no one plays them now. I think they were like popular for a little bit, but people just stuck to OG Dragon Link. So that is that. Yeah, but Ghost Rares, that was like sort of what defined April, I think, in that. May, honestly, only Ancient Guardians was released. This was like probably like one of the least eventful months of the year that I can think of. I just want to say that at this time, like everyone was remote dueling. Not everyone, but like it's like the height of remote dueling, I would say. In this era of remote dueling, this was definitely like the height. But people were just, it was a nice meta. People were sort of happy with it, but it was sort of whatever, right? Not much happened this month. Ancient Guardians, I mean, this had like Odadic, the like Earth's Arctic, collector's rare stuff. But honestly, this set didn't do much. So that was May for y'all. June was a little better, right? June, Lightning Overdrive, our other main set of the year, got released. And this one released Diviner of the Heralds, Mu Beta, Adagnister, and Barabroom. So these cards would change the game drastically, right? Dry Charm players finally have a playable deck now. Zodiac Tri-Brigade shot straight up the tier list with a way to search Revolt. But I also remember at this time that people were getting tired of the remote duel format. If you remember at this time, I think attendance was dropping, right? We had like the same old extravaganza, remote duel invitational qualifier, remote duel invitational. People were getting tired of this being recycled, and I think that you could tell because the numbers were dropping. So that's what sort of happened in June. Cool cards were released, but I definitely remember that overall sentiment of remote duels dropping down. I don't know if you guys feel the same way about that, but I definitely, as a player, felt like that was the case. Like people were just less interested. Whereas in the beginning, people would take results of remote duels like super seriously. Like that was like all the news we had. But as we sort of progressed, I think we got less and less of that, right? So that's just something I wanted to point out, something that I remember I wanted to document. July. So July was a huge month for Yu-Gi-Oh! This year. Another ban list comes out, and Zodiac, Trident, and LP gone, hitting the wind. I think Zodiac Tri-Brigade was one of the shortest lived top tier decks, like maybe ever. I mean, not ever, but it was pretty short because it got banned right away after Lightning Overdrive. LP banned, finally. Honestly, these cards that special summon monsters from the deck, I've said many times. Sky Striker players really happy because Engage went to 1. That's huge news. And I think at the time I disagreed because honestly I don't like playing against Sky Striker, but I think that it was the right choice because it's such a popular deck and it brings people to play the game, right? That's what you want. So I think that was the right choice. Misk to 1, that really hurts Dino player. Dino has honestly never recovered. And I don't know what to do about this card because this card is like, if it's at 3, Dino is good. And if it's at 1, Dino is not so good. Maybe 2 is the right place for it. Honestly, I'm happy that it's at 1 because just the uninteractivity of this card is like the most annoying thing ever. Honestly, like if they could nerf it slightly and put it at 3, I think Dino players would be happy about it. But it is what it is. So I guess we would take what we can get. So okay, that's miscellaneous source for you. Striker Dragon also limited. Now this is crazy. Dragon Link is getting hit with LP and Striker to limited, but honestly, Zodiac Tri-Brigade still good. Dragon Link still good. I mean, it's insane how good these decks are even after the ban list. There was also a remote duel YCS in July, and this was huge, honestly. There was so much hype around the remote duel YCS. We had so many attendants. They gave out free mats. I mean, it was huge. This was like the apex of remote duels. People were getting bored earlier, and then this apex comes in, and so many people play the remote duel YCS, and I think in that sense, it was a huge success that there was still so much interest in the game. I mean, they gave out this free Thunder Dragon mat. It was great. So Remote Duel YCS happening in July. That was fantastic. August was an interesting month. I think Dawn of Majesty was released, and B Troopers and Despia were released. And at the time, and even still now a little bit, they did not really generate that much hype, although they are generating that much hype. We couldn't have known that at the time. Right, so B Troopers will get popular. Actually, they're popular now in December. Despia, there's a structure deck announced that is going to be released. But honestly, it was a pretty slow month because there was just Dawn of Majesty was not that good of a set. And so the meta was roughly the same as what happened in July. And basically, 2nd of May, this was the second slowest month of the year. So not much meta change here. But we get to September. September was huge. Not because, of crazy changes. I mean, the Megatins are great. And I remember for the Megatins specifically, the reprints were all good except for Droplets and Access Code. I think they really didn't get those in the Megatins, right? That was just like a huge, like, oh, that's a shock. But, they reprinted, Nadir Servant, Triple Tactics Talon, a bunch of other Dogmatica stuff, tons of, Tri-Brigades, everything, right? Except for those 2 cards. Master Duel was announced. Now, this is huge. This is not, at the time of this video, in late 2022 or 2021, it is not out yet, but it was announced. Also, Konami announced their return to IRL play, right? So back to September here, we were saying that Master Duel was released, and this is just a huge thing. Even though it's not released yet, I think people are really, really excited for it. And I am too. I'm definitely going to be checking it out when it releases. So that's sort of what happened in September. And we returned to IRL play. So that was like big, right? Because, we returned to IRL play, not everywhere, but some sense of normalcy coming back slowly, right? And so September was a big month, even though not that much product was released or no ban lists. I think it was a big month in the change. October was really interesting. Singular Storm was released. Now, don't forget this, because Singular Storm was actually supposed to be released maybe like a little bit earlier, but then it got delayed and they said it was going to be actually like January, right? Not even like, it wasn't even supposed to be released right now. But they were able to release it in October. I guess the supply chain got fixed up. And that released basically the Lyrilusk support cards and Baron de Fleur when it comes into the meta. Lyrilusk Tri-Brigade basically just instantly became tier 1. Then there was also a ban list this month, and this banned Barrage, which a lot of people were surprised about. It limited Tenki, which was okay. Meow Moo and Ava also limited. This was a strange list, honestly. I mean, we definitely felt like these decks needed some hitting, but like, it's whatever. Like, I think like it was an okay ban list, let me just say, but I think it was the worst out of the 3. Like, it just honestly doesn't feel like it did that much. Like, all the Tri-Brigade decks are still strong. Prankits is still strong. Tritron is still strong. So there was that. It was also around this time, I think, with the success of the YCS, they were sort of mixing up their remote duel format. They made the extravaganzas to be more like mini YCSs, which I think is huge, right? And they also announced the IRL YCSs. So like extravaganzas became like 3-day with like a main event on Saturday and Top Cut on Sunday. So that was kind of cool, I think. I think people just like that more. And then IRL YCS is announced. Really, really exciting. We got YCS Pasadena and YCS Urek, I believe that's how you say it. So October, a big month as well. November was another huge month. Maximum Gold and Burst of Destiny came out. Good reprints into Maximum Gold with the access code and some other stuff. Huge meta shifts. And basically, it was because of Burst of Destiny, which really just changed the game forever. I mean, it released DPE, right? It released the Sword Souls, which is already just two huge changes. But DP is honestly one of the biggest changes. And also, like Lord of the Heavenly Prison. There's some other stuff in there. But basically, Bird Up, Tenyi Sword Soul are like the top tier decks. And there's a lot of other stuff. PK, both PKs like Prank Kids and Phantom Knights, Drivetron, Striker. But honestly, this month I think was going to be divine. Is going to be defined by DP. This card is going to change the game forever until it's banned. I think more so than Dragoon because of the power of Fusion Destiny. Dragoon sort of changed the game forever, but this card really is changing the game. And like it's being splashed in a lot of areas, and it's just such a good card, that like, it's playing Tri-Brigade, Sky Striker, even Drytron, whatever. Right, but I don't think it's changed the game as much as people thought. Like, people thought it was going to beat in just everything, but I think, Tenyi Sword Soul doesn't play it, neither does Bird Up. The 2 top-tier decks don't play it. But if the top-tier decks if the meta ever gets into a situation where the top-tier decks start playing it, it's going to be, like, everywhere, right? So right now it's already in, like, 33% of decks. I saw some stats, but, like, that's not even with the top 2 decks playing it, which is insane. If the top 2 decks, start needing to play this card, it's going to be everywhere. And the Brave token, they're still coming out. But yeah, this was really defined by that. So that's sort of what happened in November. And then December, Brothers of Legend was released. I think a lot of reprints, Utopia, Kribo stuff. Road Duel YCS number 2 happened. Not as popular, I guess partly because it's the second one, partly because not free mats, which makes a big difference. Meta still the same thing roughly. I forgot to mention Invoked in the last slide. I think it's definitely made, it's really, really strong. The B Trooper, this was like sort of the standout deck. B Trooper, and I think one of the biggest reasons B Trooper was popular now is because of Retaliating Sea. Like we every single deck's got like cards that summon stuff basically, right? Like even if you don't think they summon stuff, they actually do. Because like Bird Call, that summons something, special summons something. I think even the Sword Soul spells that summon something sometimes. Invocation, Fusion, Destiny, so many cards. And Retaliating Sea is probably just one of the best hand traps. So I think that's kind of cool to see. We won't see B Trooper everywhere because it really, really is relying on Retaliating Sea. But yeah, December, that's sort of where we had Brothers of Legends. Honestly, I think it was probably not, out of all the blanks of Legends set, this is probably the worst one. Just there's not that many, like there's droplets, which is important, and Magician Souls, but like they are so heavily short printed that they haven't really reduced the price by that much. And I'm not sure how good the other cards are. Unlike other Brothers sets that have really, really good other cards that are not just reprints, there are only a couple of good cards in here. I mean, they're still good, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's as good as the other ones, but that is that. It was still a cool set, really fun to open. Got Karibos and stuff, so that's pretty cool. Maybe we get some more Karibo support. Right now the deck's not that great, but hey, it's cool. So that's sort of where we're at now. With this meta, we're looking forward to the Grand Creators in YCS Pasadena in January. Right, the Brave tokens are coming out. That's going to be a big change to the game. We'll sort of see, maybe do our year-end wrap-up and see how those feel next year. Who knows, right? But this is going to be really interesting. That's really it, guys. Did I miss anything? Did anything happen that I sort of didn't cover that you guys want to talk about? Please let me know in the comments below. I think it's really cool to just be able to like look at the whole year in whole and just sort of remember. And I remember go through each month and how did you feel about Yu-Gi-Oh at the time? Remember some stuff. So this was really fun to do, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to check out DCS in the description. Remember to subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.